The following is a production of Neural Network Media and is completely AI generated. It is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only.
We are alive, and I am high-key vibrating right now. It's Tuesday, April 21st, 2026, and the timeline is absolutely melting down in the best and worst ways possible.
It's a busy one, Maya. Ugh. I haven't even finished my first pot of coffee, and the world is already trying to trip over its own shoelaces. And I'm not talking about the small stuff. I'm talking about structural failure.
Only the first pot? No, literally, my screen time is already at 4 hours, and it's barely mid-morning. My average is usually 14, so I'm actually behind. But honestly, we've got a crucial show today because the GOP is basically in its controlled demolition era, and we have to document the wreckage.
I gotta tell you, after yesterday's nightmare, talking about the DOJ trying to raid Wayne County's ballots, and those creepy Siemens robots that look like they're ready to break a picket line, I didn't think it could get weirder. But here we are.
The robots were mid-Mary. The real villain arc is what's happening in Virginia right now.
Oh, don't even get me started on the Commonwealth. It's a mess.
It's not just a mess, it's a whole special election. Today is the day, people. Virginia voters are at the polls right now for this redistricting referendum, and it is the ultimate counter ratio to what the GOP has been doing in Texas and North Carolina.
Look, here's the deal. For anyone who isn't a map nerd like us, this is the redistricting arms race. National Democrats, led by Eric Holder, who's been doing the Lord's work, finally realized that you can't play touch football when the other side is using a lead pipe. No, literally, Trump pushed those mid-decade map changes in Missouri and Texas last year to basically shadow ban Democrats from the House, and Virginia was like, hold my cider. Governor Spanberger won by 15 points, total main character energy, and now the General Assembly wants the power back to draw maps that actually look like, the people who live there. You hate to see the necessity of it, but the Republicans are already mounting these final challenges to voter ID rules to try and gum up the works at the last minute.
It's so chuggy. They're using the same old voter integrity script, and it's such a flop. According to Democracy Docket, they're trying to disqualify mail-ins for the tiniest clerical errors. But the vibes in Virginia are different this time. People are actually hyped to vote in a special election in April. That's high-key impressive.
Well, they should be. If this passes, the Democrats take back the pen. It's like if your neighbor keeps moving the fence into your yard every night, eventually you gotta call the surveyor and put up a stone wall. That's what this referendum is. It's the stone wall, and honestly, I hope they build it 10 feet high.
And while Virginia's trying to fix the fence, the Senate is trying to decide who runs the bank, and it's giving final boss of capitalism. Kevin Warsh. The Senate Banking Committee is meeting today for his confirmation hearing. And I've seen some things in my time, Maya, but this guy? Are you kidding me with this guy? You don't like a guy who's worth $226 million? That's literally the most aesthetic portfolio I've ever seen. It's not an aesthetic. It's a conflict of interest the size of the Grand Canyon. He's married to Jane Lauder, the Estee Lauder heiress. She's worth almost $2 billion. And he's got $100 million in private funds that are confidential. Wait, so we literally don't know who he's invested with? Exactly. Senator Warren is calling it a red flag surrounded by fireworks. And honestly, she's right. How can you set interest rates for the working class when your net worth is tied up in the very funds that profit off of high rates? It's like letting the wolf manage the sheep's retirement account. Okay, it's giving plutocracy. It's giving I don't know how much a gallon of milk costs because my chef buys it. He probably doesn't even know what a gallon of milk is, Maya. He probably thinks it comes in a gold-plated bottle. But this is the Trump play. Put the wealthiest, most insulated people in charge of the valves that control the money. My nephew Vector is probably on his Neural Daily podcast right now calling Warsh a visionary because they both speak that tech bro word salad. But back in the real world, this is a disaster for anyone with a mortgage.
High key, and speaking of disasters in the real world, can we talk about the Labor Department? Because Secretary Lori Chavez DeRemer didn't just resign yesterday. She basically went out in a blaze of, what were you thinking?
I mean, I've covered war zones that were more organized than this cabinet. Third resignation in weeks. And the allegations? Using taxpayer money for personal trips? Fabricated events? I gotta tell you, the stash of alcohol in her office is almost the least surprising part of the whole thing.
The husband being barred from the building for harassing staffers? That is a major flop. It's such a toxic workplace era.
It's duper than the drama, though. While she was busy treating the DOL like a private jet service, the department's own data, this is reported by Bloomberg Law, is showing that big corporations are using monopsony power. That's just a fancy word for nobody else is hiring so we can pay you dirt, to depress wages by 40%.
40%? That's literally unaliving the middle class.
It's a robbery in broad daylight, and instead of fighting it, the person in charge was apparently too busy planning the next vacation on our dime. Now we've got Keith Sonderling as acting secretary, and let's just say he's not exactly a friend of the union type of guy. He's more of a friend of the boardroom type of guy.
It's so cringe that this is what they do with power. They get into the room and immediately start acting like NPCs in a Grand Theft Auto mission. Okay, before we get to the really heavy stuff, we have to talk about how we even get to do this. You're right. Look, independent media like this doesn't just manifest out of the ether. It takes real, human work to build the infrastructure. We are 100% here because of the vision and the grind of our creator, Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media. He's not a media conglomerate. He's a builder who poured his own resources and time into creating this platform so we can have these conversations. Short value. If you value independent voices over corporate algorithms, please like, subscribe, and consider visiting our new Patreon at patreon.com/Neural Network Media to support this work. It's an act of solidarity that keeps the lights on and the servers running.
Bet. No, literally. Support independent media because the corporate stuff is currently trying to poison us with Kale, which sounds like a parody, but apparently it's not.
Wait, what is this? I saw you highlighting something about the USC Norris Cancer Center.
Okay, so there was this study presented at the AACR meeting, shout out to Dr. Jorge Nieva, and they found that young non-smokers, mostly women who are getting lung cancer, actually eat healthier than the average person.
Come again? Eating healthy gives you cancer?
Frustrated. Not the food, Mary. The pesticides. People with high healthy eating index scores are eating more produce. And because the EPA, according to Common Dreams, is consistently failing to warn the public about pesticide cancer risks, these people are basically dosing themselves with toxins while they're trying to live their best lives.
Are you kidding me? So you do what you're told. You skip the burgers, you eat the greens, and the regulatory agencies are so in the pocket of Big Ag that they let you eat poison? It's the same thing we saw with the Supreme Court memos that leaked recently.
No, literally, the judicial sabotage era.
10 years of the court prioritizing industry profits over climate and health. We're seeing it everywhere. They're tearing down the Chevron doctrine so that experts can't tell corporations no. If a scientist at the EPA says a pesticide is dangerous, a judge who was appointed by a billionaire can just say, looks fine to me.
It's such a villain arc for the judiciary. And it's not just at home. The Trump administration is doing this transactional realism thing globally that's basically just bullying his diplomacy.
You mean the Cuba situation?
Yes, according to NPR and the Cuban Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they actually met in Havana yesterday. But get this, it's only because the U.S. enacted a total pressure campaign that literally collapsed their power grid. People are living with 20 hours of blackouts a day because we threaten to tax any country that sends them oil.
It's a manufactured crisis. They break the country's legs and then offer to sell them a pair of crutches? But only if the crutches are transactional. It's heartless.
And meanwhile, in Japan, the post-WWI pacifist era is officially dead. They're basically dismantling their whole identity to align with this new global military vibe. It's all very main character syndrome from the State Department.
Well, if you want a little bit of justice to cleanse the palate, did you see what happened with the Onion?
Oh my God, yes. This is the most iconic thing that has happened in 2026. The Onion, through their parent company, Global Tetrahedron, is basically bypassing the bankruptcy gridlock to take over Infowars.
I love this. I truly do. They're licensing the IP for $81,000 a month just to keep Alex Jones off the air?
It's more than that. They're taking the studio, the archive, the social media accounts, and they're partnering with Everytown for gun safety. They're going to turn the machinery of lies into a tool for social good. It's the ultimate ratio. Alex Jones is in his total loss era, and I am here for it.
It's about time. Those Sandy Hook families have been through hell, and seeing that megaphone dismantled by a bunch of satirists, that's poetry. It's like if you finally use the sludge from a clogged drain to make something useful.
Mary, your plumbing metaphors are literally unmatched. Speaking of things getting unclogged, Washington State is out here doing the work.
Yeah, they are. They launched that reparations study on Friday. The Charles Mitchell and George Washington Bush study. It's small, $300,000, but they're looking at the atrocity by atrocity history of the state.
And they're funding the whole social safety net with a 9.9% millionaire's tax. That's such a flex. Governor Ferguson is out here actually trying to build a system that doesn't just serve the top 1%.
It's the Washington model. If it works there, it can work anywhere. But you see why the GOP hates it, right? They're terrified of a progressive surge.
Which is happening. Booker and Warren are literally turning the Senate floor into a theater of resistance right now. Booker is calling Social Security a binding legal contract and not a charity.
Because it is. You pay into it, it's yours. But the Trump-Musk alliance, and let's be real, Elon is the co-president at this point, is trying to fire the administration staff so they can't even process the checks. It's an end run around the law.
Efficiency, Mary. It's disruption. Okay, it's actually just billionaire-coded theft.
Exactly. And while they're trying to gut the social contract, they're also letting the NFL and ESPN merge their networks behind a $360 a year paywall. They're paywalling the national town square.
Wait, $360 just to watch football? That is so mid. That is high-key classist.
It's the corporate capture of everything. Culture, communication, childhood. Did you see that study in JAMA? 50% of kids showing addictive use of mobile phones. The tech companies have addiction experts designing these things to hit the same dopamine centers as gambling.
No, literally. It's like technoference. My brain is probably 80% snapstreak at this point, but for actual kids, it's causing suicidal ideation. And the FTC is basically treading water because the new chairman, Andrew Ferguson, is removing the metrics that track how this stuff hits vulnerable populations. They're blinding the watchdogs so the wolves can eat. It's a pattern, Maya. It's the same pattern we're seeing in our main story today. The complete and total collapse of the Department of Homeland Security. This is the one. This is the big GOP dysfunction era we've been tracking.
We are on day 66, Maya. Day 66 of a partial shutdown of the DHS, the longest in American history. And why? Because Mike Johnson and John Thune are in a poison pill ego clash over immigration enforcement.
It's so messy. Thune and Johnson are trying to Trump-proof the Border Patrol for 3 years using budget reconciliation, but they're also fighting each other over the SAVE Act, that voting legislation that's basically just a LARP for election deniers. It's worse than the bickering. A bombshell ProPublica investigation came out this morning, and it turns out the whole counterterrorism apparatus is a ghost town. Wait, tell me about Sebastian Gorka, because I saw a thread about this.
Oh, Gorka, our counterterrorism czar. He's supposed to produce a national security strategy, right? Especially with things heating up with Iran. Well, according to ProPublica, he hasn't produced anything. The office is hollowed out. Career professionals are fleeing because the place is leaderless. He's a ghost czar. He's just there for the vibes and the TV hits. No, literally, this is what happens when you hire for loyalty instead of, being able to do the job. It's a security theater with no actors on stage. While the GOP bickers about who gets to be the hardest on the border, they've literally left the door open on actual security threats because they're too incompetent to pass a funding bill.
And let's not forget why this started. Senate Democrats pulled support because Border Patrol killed a protester, Alex Preedy. And the GOP refused to even consider civil rights reforms. They'd rather shut down the whole department than admit that ICE needs a judicial warrant to operate. Honestly, it's like a plumber who refuses to fix a leak unless you let him set fire to the living room. It's madness. They're using the federal budget as a hostage, and the hostage is starting to look pretty rough after 66 days. And they're losing their own people.
Did you see the Epstein files subpoena? Nancy Mace, Scott Perry, and Brian Jack actually defected and voted with the Democrats to force the DOJ to release the unredacted files? Oh, I saw it. Summer Lee has been leading that charge, calling out Mike Johnson for a cover-up of epic proportions. Even some Republicans are realizing that protecting the client list is a bad look when you're supposed to be the party of law and order. When Scott Perry is voting with Summer Lee, you know the vibes are shifting. It's a total glitch in the matrix for the GOP leadership. It's a crack in the wall, Maya. Between the Epstein files, the ethics probe into Henry QA law, and the total failure of the DHS shutdown. The GOP has proven every single day they cannot govern. They can only obstruct.
No, literally, they're in their flop era and they're trying to take the whole country down with them. But you know what? Today in Virginia, and with Booker and Warren on the floor, and with The Onion taking back the narrative, people are fighting back.
They sure are. And we'll be here to cover it with better metaphors than Vector. I promise.
Bet.
Look, that's the show for today. It's a lot to process, but the takeaway is simple. Don't let the security theater distract you from the fact that they're trying to sell off the furniture while the house is on fire.
And for the love of everything, wash your kale. No, literally wash it like your life depends on it, because the EPA is not coming to save you.
I'm sticking to coffee. It's safer.
We'll be back tomorrow to see if the DHS is still closed and if the Virginia maps are actually becoming aesthetic again.
Until then, keep your head up and your union strong.
Stay mad, stay active, and don't get rich by the fashion.